Should we start
Yes, let's let in our friends and then we'll groove.
today? Before I go romping off to Africa, I wanted to take a look at drawing animal faces, particularly the three-quarter view, and to spend a whole workshop just looking at the three-quarter view of animal faces. This is this is I think probably one of the most useful ways to think about drawing an animal face. When I look online at like how to draw an animal head, they always have it looking straight at you, right? Or the profile. So this view and this view. Let's think for a minute, though, about the 360 degrees that we could possibly see something. This view is a little bit easier to draw, right? Because there's none of that, there's none of this part. But yeah, there's 1 degree of the 360 where it's going to be pointing straight at you. There's 1 degree where it's going to be doing this. There's one going to be doing this. But look at all this. Oh, right. So from there, so most of the time, if an animal is looking towards you, you're going to see some semblance of a three-quarter view. There's one moment when it does this, then most of the time it's more likely going to be doing that. And the more we get comfortable at these three-quarter view angles, the easier it's going to be for us to draw what we see. And then, it does, you're not forced into then taking the head and going right to side. Right? So we're in thinking about this, I find it's really helpful to think functionally about herbivores versus carnivores. And when you look across the skulls of herbivores and carnivores, you're going to see very, very different conformation. And so think about drawing these as sort of two chunks, the herbivores and the carnivores. And first, we're going to make a little diagram. Then we're going to look at a bunch of slides. And we'll be drawing on top of those and drawing with those as reference just to sort of see how this applies. Now, we are set up on, actually, I shouldn't say just carnivores. So carnivores and um, and primates have the same setup. So where our eyes are pointing forward. If I'm going to sort of jump out and try to grab onto a branch, I want really, really good 3D vision in front of me. If I'm going to be pouncing on a little gopher and I want to get that gopher, right, I need really good 3D vision in front of me. If I'm only looking out of something out of one eye, my 3D vision goes away. I'm not able to kind of triangulate things in space. I can see that things overlap and I can see that there's a difference in size between things. So I have some clues, but when I have both eyes open, because this eye is seeing something from a slightly different angle, this eye is seeing something from a slightly different angle. My brain then takes all that information, puts it together, and here's what it is. The greater the difference between what comes in this eye and this eye, my brain knows that object is closer to me, right? And the more similar they are, my brain then calculates that as being further away. That's how stereoscopic, photographs look if you're looking through those little, lens finders. This is that's the way our brains compute that three-dimensional view. So that means if I'm going to be arboreal and trying to jump out and grab a little branch over there, or if I'm going to be a predator, I want my eyes facing forward. So that means if I'm looking a um, at a predator from the front, the eyes are looking straight at me. But if I look at that from the side, then right, then we're looking at the side view of its eye. Oops, there we are. So from the side, it's the side view. From the front, you're seeing the full eye. So let's make a diagram of this and see how that looks. So on this side, are going to be the carnivores and primates. And on the other side, let's put all these herbivores. So switch. Right. Um, from the front view, I'm going to do a front view and a side view. So what I'm going to suggest we do is we sort of think of, we're going to draw two circles here. And from the front view, I'm going to draw the sort of the center line of this critter's face. And then I'm going to draw a line across here. Um, let's put in some eyes. From the front view, the eyes of the herbivore and carnivore are looking straight at you. From the side, you are looking at the side of the eye. Let's contrast that with what we're going to see with the herbivores. From the front, here's the middle of the face. There's our side. The eyes the um, on the herbivore, I'm going to first draw it on the side view one. What you get to see is the side view of the eye. So the eye points out to the side. That allows it to have greater sort of 3D field, or not 3D, but a greater uh, uh, 360 degree view. So they don't get the full 360, but their eyes get um, the eyes get a wider field of view on the side. That means when we're looking at it from the front, the eyes are out on the side. So that's the first big difference that we're seeing. Sort of, do you have your eyes front or do you have your eyes on the side? Um, let's put in some little snouts and muzzles with these. Different types of the kind of the general approach which we're going to be taking in this workshop is having a ball, and we're going to be then taking a little box and we're going to be sticking that into the side of the ball. So if I'm doing that from the front, right, um, I'm going to be taking a little box. Here's the top of my box. Here's the front of my box. And I'm going to be sticking that. So I imagine a little sort of three-dimensional box stuck on the snoot of our little carnivore there. We're going to do the same thing here on our herbivore, but we're going to make this a lot longer. We're going to make this sort of give ourselves a longer snout down here.
So we might think of that here as a big box stuck onto the side here. Your nose is going to be um, then placed on the front of that. Let's give ourselves a little. I'm going to go for just to be cute here. We're going to have a little red nose. As you'll see, the shapes of noses are going to be different. The noses usually kind of wrap a little bit across the top of a box and then down onto the front of the box. Or sometimes so that would be kind of like this. Sometimes they're just something that you see on that front surface of the box. So we're going to have our nose out here. And depending on your species, it's going to be a different shape. Um, let's put a little nose in here. For this little critter, I'm just going to give it sort of long, more slit-like nostrils, but again, your nostrils are going up there. So the nostrils, the nose is towards the top edge. So notice that you've got the nose, the eye, and then we'll go back from that and we're going to put in ears. Think of the ears on our carnivore here attaching along the top side of the head. And there we go. So notice along the top, we're going nose, eye, ear. If you're drawing something from the front, getting the right distance between those ears is very important. What is the angle that the ears pop up on the top of the head there? And that then gives this a very kind of forward facing. Everything is facing forward here. Right? On the herbivore, we're going to attach the ear also on the top there in that line, that nose, eye, ear line. So we're going to attach it back here. But just like the eye wants to go on the side, the ears want to go on the side, but the ears are going to be kind of coming up from a little pedestal that is going to help us rotate those ears around. And so the ears are going to be much easier to turn so that I can, take them and bring them forward. I can take my ears and bring them back. Right. So we're going to find a lot more sort of flop all around motion. The carnivores can move their ears around. If anybody's got a dog, it does a lot of its sort of mood expressing with its ears. But even more so with the herbivores. So this is going to be the general plan that we're going to be looking at. But this is from the straight front and the straight side. It's useful to have this framework here in our heads so that when we so useful to have this framework in our heads so that when we start to think of things from a three-quarter view angle, that we can kind of keep that alignment of eyes front, likes to hunt, eyes on the side, likes to hide. Let's now turn towards the three-quarter view. Right? Here's the concept behind the three-quarter view. And what I'm going to really be doing is I want to keep the eyes in a line with the nose, with the mouth, with the ears, with my receding hairline. So whatever features I want, if I want to keep this face symmetrical, this line needs to stay parallel with this line, needs to stay parallel with this line. I'm going to take a ruler. Right. Dish line here of my mouth, I need to keep parallel with this. So as my head turns around, these lines stay parallel, right? If I do this, it's not going to work. So I want to keep this like this. So the line on my nose, the line on the tops of my ears, the lines up here on the hair, all these different lines, the line on my chin. These are the lines that I'm going to be trying to at different angles to keep parallel. So let's do a little diagram of that. All right. Here is the three-quarter view head in theory. Here. So if this is my head ball, what I like to do is to think of the center line of that face. All right. So there's the center line of my face. If this were looking straight towards me, I'd be seeing this. If I turned it sideways to me, that line would be there. That is the center line of my face. I'm now going to stick the snout into this. So what I'm going to do is it's fun to sort of think about three-dimensional. If I'm drawing a little three-dimensional box, what I do is I make my little rhombus here. I've got this line parallel with this line and this line parallel with this line. So there's two sets of parallel lines. Now, parallel with that is going to be the bottom of the snoot here. And I'm now going to drop down there. Actually, let's go for even a different color for this. So you notice there's three sets of parallel lines here. But this one here, this one here, this one here, these are a bunch of the lines that I'm really going to be working on keeping these all parallel. Let's come back here and put this onto the side. So see this line here, parallel with that. There's the front of my nose. Come down here. Parallel, parallel. Come on back here to the head. I'm going to wrap this into the side of the face there. So if I have eyes, my eyes are going to be in a line across here. My nose is going to be across here parallel. If I'm coming down to the middle of a mouth, that is, the corners of that are going to be parallel here. If I've got a bottom of my chin, it's going to be parallel with this. If I have ears, here's the weird thing. The tops and the bottoms of the ears are going to be parallel on this face, but I'm going to have to wrap my brain around to the other side of this. So if the top of my ear is starting here, over here, parallel to that, there's going to be a point not in the front here, but probably wrapped around the other side of the ball where that ear is going to be connecting. And if the bottom is here, right, then it's boop, 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 doing something over to there. So that means that the ear on this side might be sticking up here. The ear on the far side is going to be partially obscured by the side of the head there, right? So, but I want to be able to envision it connecting with this structure here. So I don't want that far side ear being up here. I want to be able to visualize it going across that head. So these parallel lines are going to be really, really, really our friends. And I find just keeping track of those makes a big difference. One other line of orientation, we had that center line going down the head. It is helpful to continue that out over the front of this snout. Here's a weird thing to notice. Notice that as I did this, this shape right here, this square here, I'm going to fill that in. What I've done is I've made that a little bit bigger than this one here. And the reason for that is if there's any rounding, in this shape, parts of what I'm seeing over here are actually going to be angled slightly away from me on this side here. So that means that if I have then a mouth, it is going to be, I'm going to see a longer side on this closer part to me. Now, let's look at a photograph of an animal and think about how these lines are. First, I'm going to draw all over it, and then I'm going to make those lines go away. What I want everybody to do is to be drawing those guidelines on a piece of paper, right? And let's see here. There is a beautiful lion. All right. First, what I'd like you to do is visualize the ball of its head and visualize the box of its little snout sticking out, or big snout. Let's draw over this. Look at those crazy forward-facing eyes. That's intimidating. So what I'm seeing here is there's a ball. And let's follow this line here. That's giving us the center line of that ball. If I draw a line here between these eyes, that's the top of my box. And I have a little box that is coming out here. Let's go down here. Oops, let's go to do for a slightly different color. So that's what I'm trying to get myself to visualize. This little box plugging into a ball. So I have tops of ears. There's bottom of ear. Here's my eyes. Here's the top of my nose. Here's the bottom of my mouth. The bottom of my chin is going to be parallel with that. So getting those parallel lines is those parallel lines is going to be really, really helpful in doing this. Let's also just sort of take a note of a couple of interesting things. First, let's look at the eyes. This one here, you're seeing this eye from the front. This eye is partially blocked by the nose coming out. So the two eyes are different shapes. Very often, this far side eye you're going to see on a three-quarter view taking interesting shapes, and it's a good thing to look for. The pupil in this close eye is doing what I would expect a good pupil to do. Look at this pupil over here. It's way over there. That's because part of this eye is blocked by that nose. So I'm getting a little bit of, so my brain's going like, oh, there's asymmetry over here. No, it's just that we've got part of this blocked. But now let's look down at the nose, right? I have here a nostril coming in, here a nostril coming in. I'm seeing the two sides of this are not symmetrical. Our brain wants to draw these two as symmetrical and kind of keep that nice symmetry in there. But on this three-quarter view, the one on the far side is shortened, right? So if I drew the center line of this, look at that. Here's this, let's drop a different color in there. Here's the center line. Look at that asymmetry. Let's look at the mouth. Big line, little line. Isn't that interesting? So those are all things I should be looking for in putting in these facial details. Your brain is going to want this eye to look like this eye, and the pupils to be in the centers, and the two sides of the nose to be the same, and the two sides of the mouth to be the same. What I have to do is realize that the three-quarter view is going to change that. I need to expect this now. And if I expect it, I've got a much better chance. So why don't we, just on our piece of paper, let's all just look at that lion and draw it. Go for it. Start just blocking that in how you do it. I'll be following along and doing the same thing, but the most important thing isn't to watch me draw. The most important thing is for you to be drawing that lioness yourself. You might be thinking, I'll just watch and I'll draw later. Your brain really, trust me, that your brain will absorb this information so much better if you give yourself the permission um, to draw. Don't worry if it looks good. Don't worry if it looks right. The most important thing is to make a bunch of marks. The more we do this, the better off we're going to be. I like to kind of look at what is the negative shape here between those ears. and sort of have this forward jutting chin. I like to think of the top and the bottom of the eye as a shape. So I'll look at like, what does this shape do? Kind of comes up, and then there's a flat part. Rather than draw the eye that is in my head, I think to myself, all right, there's a vertical part here. We're going to come straight over a little downy angle, and then we're going to hook back, and then my pupil goes much further over than I think it should. I'm going to do that in contact with the top. What is my nostril doing? So you can think of nostrils as sort of the dyslexic 66, right? So there's, right, the two sides pointing towards each other. Big side, have my little side, little bit septum here, and then I get my lion mouth. Think of the center line coming down here, continuing through here. That means the bottom of the chinny chin chin is going to be down here. So rather than have the bottom of this chin be somewhere over here, I'm thinking, like, where is that center line coming down? That's here. So sometimes with whisker beds, I'll just sort of envision a little ball in here and a little ball in here that is mostly kind of wrapped around. I don't get to see too much of that. The last thing I'm going to do on this is I'm going to put, if I have my eyes just like this, my eyes will feel like they're floating in the void. So what I'd like, there are bony arches that come up over and around the eyes and muscles in and around the eyes. So there's often a little muscular pad up in here. And you can think of then the 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 bones that sort of support the eye. So I'm sort of building up tissue around the eye. Same here. There's a sort of tissue around the eye. So the eye sits in this little promontory that protects it and shields it. Let's take a look at a different critter. what happened to your pupils? Right. So here's a little cheetah, and notice how much smaller, just back here to our lion friend. Um, second. Look at sort of the big long face. Compare that with this one, this little whoop, a much shorter little snout here. But let's think of how this same idea applies to this face. Can you envision the box? Can you envision the ball? Can you see the center line of the ball? Look between its eyes. You see there's a line actually coming down on that face. They follow that through on the ball. How would that look? Muzzly box. And let's put that center line on that. So the center line comes down the forehead. It comes out asymmetrically over the top because that's a slightly rounded top. Asymmetrically down here to the chin. There's our center line. Tops of our ears are going to be parallel with this line. The bottom of your ear is going to be somewhere in there. So you're behind the scenes, you're thinking of this edge down there. Behind the scenes, we're coming just over the horizon to that. Clear those lines. And block it in. Give it a sketch. Whoops. Weird to not draw the pupils, right? So tempting to get in there and put in the big pupils. Seeing a shadow in those eyes, but no pupils. Tops of my ears are going to be parallel to that too. Well, this actually wouldn't hurt just to show you a little cat ear drawing trick. Look at how there's all that fuzz up there in this part of the ear. And then there's that, you can see the darker part hanging behind it. So what I sometimes will do is I'll lightly kind of block in where my fuzz is. And let's draw a few little lines that sort of show that, okay, I've got a kind of a little, there's a little fuzz pile down here. And then I've got some fuzz marks in here. And then I'm going to put in shadow next to those. Up to those fuzz marks. And I'm going to leave a little light edge here. But get some dark right back in there. So this is as opposed to, imagine that this was the ear. If I start to draw in all those long hairs, then I've got this really dark glob where the light hairs are on the outside. Because as I'm drawing those hairs, I'm adding in dark things. So I want the dark to be that little space in the ear going behind it. I'm going to put some, let's put some of these sort of masses around the eye here. Sort of, you'll see how that just sort of places the eye in the head. Short. Let's look at one more predator. Beautiful spotted hyena. Look at those forward-facing eyes. You just if you block out the rest of the face with your hands, you'll see that this really kind of it looks so human, right? There's our little nose, those very forward-facing eyes. Then you take your hands away, and there's those big ears, and you're like, oh, there might be something else going on. Very high forehead to support powerful muscles that go up on a little crest there. Let's think about how this would relate to the ball and the box. How would you visualize the ball? How would you visualize the box? I'm going to do this. Here's my center line. Now I'm going to let's get some box. Darker. Maybe a little lighter. There we go. Right. What does the center line do? Center line's going to wrap down here. Center line's going to come out this way. Center line's going to drop down here and over the chin. Notice those asymmetrical sides of it. Tops of my ears are going to be parallel with this. See how that ear is coming down behind the horizon of that head. Bottom of the ear is going to be parallel. But I see it coming in here. Well, behind the scenes, it's going all the way down to there. That's just behind that margin of the head, but I want to be able to think of these eyes, tops of ears, right? So all those lines I can think of as parallel. Let's draw this. If you do a bunch of drawings at home to practice this, um, really looking at what do you see with the shape of that far side eye is going to really help you. Let's do that ear trick again up there in one of those ears. I'm going to just block in where the those long hairs are. And then I'm going to suggest that they're hairs by a few little flicks from the out, press, and flick in. Flick in. And then what I do is I put the dark adjacent to that. But what about herbivores? Well, here's a wildebeest. And on this one, its eye, it has an eye that is right up in here. Its other eye, we can't see. We see kind of a protrusion on the side of the head and some of its eyelashes sticking out there. But this location of those eyelashes, and here we actually see an eye, that's the height of its eyes, way up here. Its ears are starting down here, the bases of its horn here, the tops of its horns, the tips of its horns. All these are parallel lines. So let's then look at, if I were to draw this, I would think to myself, I have a ball up in here, and I'm going to attach a box. Center line of that. My eyes are going to be parallel to where my ears come in, parallel to the base of the horns, the tip of the horns, and my little snout out there. Here you can see the really flexible ears. Both of these ears are pointed forward. And because one of them, they're like this, but oops, this one here, oops, sorry, this one right here, this one here is now pointed more towards you. So you see it as a smaller ear. You're looking into this ear. They're both kind of doing this, but we've turned the head like this so that this ear is now foreshortened towards us, making that ear look smaller. So that gives us an ear shape on this side. On this side, you can actually see the little base down here where your ear attaches, and then it comes up from that here. That little base is down more out of your view, and you're looking kind of into a long ear. So the ears look asymmetrical because of the tilt of the head. But also any one of these ears could independently just sort of flip around and do whatever it wants. Because, hey, if you're an herbivore, you've got these really mobile ears. Why don't we draw this head together? give myself a little ball. I'm going to attach a big snoot onto it.
Oh, Jack, would you be able to raise your page up? They're perfect.
I've got eyes, I've got ears, I've got bases of my horns, I've got the tips of my horns. Um, I'm going to put in just a few little kind of placeholders for those horns. Look at how tempting it is to draw the length of the horns the same um, the same size. But just pause for a second. So here, like remember those ears were facing forward like that. So when you when you turned it, this one became shorter. These um, horns are slightly back. So when I tilt, right, you see how one of my arms gets shorter, the other one gets longer. Let's go back to, hard for me to do that yoga. Oh, no, maybe I can do it this way. Um, so if the horns are ah right, so if the horns are sticking out of the head flat like this, and I turn my head, you see the same amount of foreshortening on both of them. If they're coming forward like the ears, right, forward like the ears, as I turn my head, this one closer to you gets shorter, and this one over here appears longer. Okay. If they're back the opposite way, the foreshortening is the opposite. So that means that so if I turn this way and they're tilted back, I'm going to have the apparent lengths of these horns will be different if they are um, symmetrical, so pointing out straight to the sides, coming towards you or away from you. Oh, there we go. So let's take a look at those horns again. So I'm seeing on one side, a little bit longer, and on the other side, a little bit shorter. One side I've got a big ear, and on the other side, I've got a small ear. Oh, it's so much easier to draw from photographs, isn't it? But if we were like, how do I do this when they're in the field and they're walking around and I don't have a photograph? The more we kind of practice with these sort of things and kind of get our brains to try to expect some of these things, the better chances we have of then being able to capture that. When in doubt, um, just you do the best you can, but don't put pressure on yourself with this animal kind of moving around in the field to have it to be like what you would get from a photograph. You'll notice different sorts of things when you're out with a live beastie. let's look at a different herbivore. Ooh, there's a lot of stripes going on here, I know. But for this, we're going to be ignoring the stripes. We're just going to be looking at the shape. I have some other videos about sort of stripes on a zebra that you can find in my archives. But let's just look at that three-quarter view shape and see what we notice. Okay, there's the ball in the box. Find the center line of the ball. Find the center line of the box. Let's start with that. Oops. And I'm going to see if I can. Dead. I'll do this another time. All right, ball. Center line of my ball. Go across our eyes here. So we have a box coming down here. Box center line. Parallel lines. Cross our eyes, cross the nose, ears. All those features, I want to try to keep them parallel. Notice this really kind of cool thing that is happening at the eye level. Let's look at the far side eye. Oh, there is none. But also notice that if this is my line on the top of the head, and I'm going to think about sort of the planes of the surface here, there is this diamond, asymmetrical. Here on the forehead. So because this eye really sticks out to the side, we really have this big prominence that we see out here. And that changes instead of a flat contour out there. We can really kind of think of that as being that's our top surface. I like to think of this this shape as as being as sitting on the animal's forehead. You'll also notice that the side of the face here is right, sort of in our ball here. The side of the face is really flat. It's not puffed out. The way that you can suggest that when in your drawing is actually with the stripes. So when you kind of get to the stripy part, well, first of all, don't put a kind of graded shadow in this area here, or it will look like a big ball. And when you get to drawing the stripes, more that the stripes just sort of follow that contour. You see that kind of comes down and then it's tucking around, comes down. And see that little tuck in? That helps people sort of see that, oh, this is coming down flat. And then it is wrapping around the side of the face. So that means that the bend, the contour of it is going to be here, not a progressive thing as you kind of go around a big puffy cheek. So that will help you. The stripes can actually help you be able to carve this critter.
Let's draw a zebra head. Everybody. If you haven't yet, please just give it a try. Go pause if you are doing if you are uh, hey, there we go. If you are doing something's going on with my camera here. Unplug it and plug it back in. Sometimes my document camera likes to do that. Oh, it's not wanting to show the document camera. Oh, there it is. Document camera's back. But if you're thinking like, I'm going to watch these videos and then later on I'll try it with drawing, just as an experiment, just go get that piece of paper right now and see what happens. See what happens if we actually do this kind of along together with each other. The more pencil miles, not looking at somebody else's pencil miles, the more pencil miles that you actually are putting in, um, that's gonna make a big difference. You really see that sort of peg at the base of the ear. If you grew up doing lots of horses, that will you'll see tons of similarities in here.
let's try. Yeah, you're too pixelated. Let's try you. So last critter here. Even though this one is very pixelated, sorry about that. Um, this is a really good opportunity just to look at parallel lines, right? Um, so I'll just draw on this screen for a moment, but let's not spend too much time with this one because it is just looking a little bit funky on the screen there. But look at just huge eyes on the side. There are your eyes. I'm seeing a little bit of that one there. This massive eye here. Um, Parallel with the top of the nose, the bottom of the nose, the mouth, the chin, the bases of the horns, where the ears are going to insert, right? Um, all of those are going to help us. Now, here's our last one. Oof, there's a lot going on up here, right? But we know where to start. Find the circle, find the box. And then we'll just start adding to it and it'll be okay. But if I have that basic framework, then I've got sort of I kind of know where I'm going. I've got here's my ball, and here is the center line of that ball coming down, right? And what is the box going to do? Kind of come across here from the base of the eyes, base of the nose. And this actually has from the nose is um, I'm actually going to put we actually have lips sticking out here past where the nose inserts sort of a little bit more on the top of that surface. And then what is my center line doing? The center line is coming down here. It's then going out across the top of that asymmetrically and wrapping down. What do I do about all this craziness up top? I think that in something like this, it might be helpful for us to think about kind of adding, like we did on that zebra, sort of thinking about, is there sort of a big geometric shape that is sort of flattened on the top of the head of this? So to keep it simple, I'm going to think of a big kind of plane coming up. I have triangles sticking out for my eyes to insert under. The ears are going to be parallel. The hips, tops of these little horns, the bottoms of them, all those things are going to be parallel. So that kind of gives me some guidelines to start to make my way around it. Over here, I get to see one big nostril. Here, I get to see a little one on the side. Asymmetry again. Our brain wants to make the drawing symmetrical because we know the critter is symmetrical. So let's just try to do this beastie together. At your own pace, you know what to do now, right? On the inside of the ear of this giraffe, you're seeing some really cool patterns. You'll see that on a lot of different kinds of antelopes that have there'll be these sort of inner ear patterns, and that's some a fun thing to kind of look for. I kind of grew up around deer, where I don't think of that as sort of a prominent part of the structure of the beastie.
that's how I would think about three-quarter view heads on animals. The This view and this view give you a few basic ideas, but most of the time you're going to be seeing something in between. And to to have in your brain kind of an approach that you could take towards doing that. It's not a formula. It's not a formula like say this is how you draw the giraffe. This line, this line, this line, this line. You've got you've got a general approach, and then you're going to adapt that to what is the shape of the face of the animal that's in front of you, and how turned is it? All those things will change. But you've got some guidelines. Let's keep parts that are parallel with each other. Let's keep those parallel. Let's think of like the mass of the brain case, and then this, and then we're going to insert this little face onto it. That gives me a basic structure. Then I start tweaking that, understanding the difference between eyes on the side and eyes facing front does a huge thing to change. Like if you ever drawn a deer and it looks like a dog, that's what's going on. And so the just being aware of those things gives us a structure in our head that we can then adapt to whatever we happen to see at that moment. It's a lot of fun. Try this with your pets. Try this with farm animals. Try this with whatever animals you have access to. And look at these sort of three-quarter views. If you don't have access to any critters, you've obviously got access to a computer, right? So do a little search online and just look around for some three-quarter views, heads of animals, and just play with those and see if you can kind of get in your head a system so that when the animal does this, you were not going, please come back to this, right? You can do this. And I hope you have a lot of fun with it. Let's bounce over to the discussion room here and see if there's any comments or questions or thoughts that people had about this. And if you've got a question or wanted to share some of your drawings, you can just raise your hand, either with the Zoom raise hand function, or you can also just turn on your camera and wave at us, and we will probably notice.
Yeah.
Would Yes, Avea.
Could I give an invitation to folks too? We've done this occasionally where if folks would like to, what if people all hold up their drawings all at once, or their notes all at once? Would that be good?
That's a great idea. So I am going to. So if you put it onto, you see the grid view, you can see everybody's hold up our little critter faces. Oh, look at this. There we go. Look at all those animal faces, right? And you see, and I'm seeing structure in these faces. I'm seeing parallel elements. These really feel solid. These really feel like they have structure to them. Oh, that's exciting to see. Great idea, Avea. Oh yeah, look at that. Um, it just yeah, that cheetah just looks so. I can feel it. Right? It's neat. Some of these critters, they start kind of looking back at you, don't they? Would anybody like to put theirs? We can bring you in full screen if you want, and you want to join me in conversation here. Does anybody have any questions that they or comments, or anybody want to share um, in our full space here?
I'm
I
not
hope that
seeing
was fine.
any hands. Oh yeah, it was wonderful. I hope I'm not missing anybody. Oh, I see Susan.
All right, let's bring Susan in. Susan, hey there.
Hey there. Hey there. Just
Are you still
confused.
hanging out with Rebecca?
No, I would have loved to stay for days and days, and hopefully I will very soon go back and pay a longer visit, but it was a long trip away from home, and my poor cat is very happy to see me. So yes, uh, but yeah, we had some great adventures though. Yeah, so yeah, this was excellent. This was very fun. I had lots of fun with critters. Got slightly distracted by the challenge of trying to do horns.
Oh, but I like the way you're wrapping those contour lines around them.
Well, that's yeah. I think as I was
That's a
racking my brain.
great idea.
Yeah, well, the thing because and you can't see them very prominently on the wildebeest. You could see on that one very pixelated antelope. You could see they had this very excellent ridges, but I figured I could just about kind of imagine the contour lines. But yeah, so I was thinking because I've tried to draw sheep that have spirally horns, and it's fun because trying to get a three-dimensional spiral where the two sides are mirror images of each other, but you're seeing them at totally different angles. And
Yes.
so some parts of the spiral are foreshortened in one, and other parts of the spiral are foreshortened in the other. And this is there is a bit of a sort of a spiral ish kind of shape to this, but not exactly. And I would love to see one in 3D and in front of me, and I could look at it in 3D and figure out what the shape actually is. But yeah, so I was having fun trying to
That's
make
cool.
sense of.
That's cool. We should have just a horn drawing workshop.
Ooh, well, I'm always in favor of ungulates, so that would
Uh,
be lots of fun. Yeah, I like that good scar on that line is his face.
and it, yeah, and the scar then by the way that it kind of wraps around also helps you see the contour of its
Yeah,
face, doesn't it?
yeah,
Yeah. So yeah,
yeah, yeah.
what Susan's doing here with these horns, I encourage people to note this strategy. Do you see those? So these are called cross contour lines. And what she's doing is sort of imagine it like a toilet paper tube with a little line going across it. How would the angle of the line change depending on the angle of the of what you're looking at? Um, so the um, and this is a great study. Look on that far horn, the one that's going away from us, the one you're seeing on the right side of the screen, and notice how the angles change when it gets to the 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 point where it kind of starts to turn back towards you, right? Right there where she's got her finger. Notice that point. That's the key point. What you're seeing is the ones on the left side of her finger are backward C's. The ones on the right side of where her finger was were letter C's pointing the right direction. And what is second?
Jack, did your voice go funny?
Oh, I was just walking over to the other side of the
Okay.
room.
Well, they say you can do similar things with tree branches. That's what I was thinking of because I've been trying really hard because I find my tree branches never look three dimensional. So I've been really trying to work on like doing that with tree branches and then like doing the bark patterns on tree branches. And so that's why I thought like, oh, even though you can just barely, there aren't really contour lines on the photo, but you can kind of make sense of from between the shadows, you can kind of get an idea of like what direction is the horn actually going. Oh, that
Yeah.
Slinky is a good. Who would have thought Slinky would be a useful
Yeah.
drawing tool?
So what we've got are if you look as I hold the Slinky like this, so let's go down on the Slinky. Come on, Slinky. Slinky zoom. Where's the Slinky zoom? Slinky zoom. Slinky zoom. There we go. So as the horn is going away from you, these are making backwards C shapes in this direction, right? If the horn is coming towards you, it's making C shapes in this direction. See, these edges are making C's pointing this way. So if there's a point where it turns, you've got the place where it is going from backward C's to non-backward C's on the other side. And so let's point to right that spot again on your picture.
Yeah.
All right. See that? That's the spot that makes it work. Right above where her finger is, you see there's a little straight line that goes across. See that right at the bottom? There's a straight line. And isn't that interesting?
So this horn, it looked like this more or less straight part. We were kind of seeing it straight on, and so I just made the
Yeah.
vertical lines because the circles that are going around the horn, we're seeing them straight on. So I can't
Yeah.
do it.
So
But
if I
yeah,
put the slinky in
that's
that,
kind of the piece of like trying to get it because they look very, very close to symmetrical, but they're not really. But I realized that this was the part we were seeing straight on, and this straight part was the part that was being
yeah,
foreshortened. And I figured that making those curves was going to actually get the three-dimensional look that I was trying to get.
yes. So on the left-hand horn, the one that's coming towards you, you're seeing these backward C's, and then they come into this part here where it's straight because you're looking on kind of straight on with those slinky spirals, right? So as it's coming, if you're looking at the slinky from the side, you're not seeing those spirals. So as this comes up and then flattens out, where my thumb is, you're seeing C's. And then where this finger is right here, kind of making it wobble, 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 then they're looking at those straight. Ah, that's really cool.
Thank you. That was a fun little diversion there.
Fun diversion into, yeah.
Yes.
And this is what Susan's looking at. This applies to drawing tree branches. It applies to drawing, any cylindrical curved objects. It's a great exercise to do. Yeah, let's do a whole workshop just on horns, and then if we want to go nuts, we can do a separate one on antlers. Branching. Why not? It's good to see you. I'm going to miss you this summer.
Me too.
Oh, what do we got going? Oh, you've
Weird.
been and do you want to tell everybody about you just came back from a cicada peeping. Like some people go travel to go bird watching. Some people also flee the cicada event because it's too loud for them.
I don't know why you would. They're great. Actually, yeah, it was, I think, possibly due to temperatures or due to population density or whatever it is. It was never actually like deafening where I was, and I've heard people say that in some places it is truly that loud. So, yes, so yeah, I folks know I live in New York. If I want to wait until 2030, there will be periodical cicadas coming up at the Hudson Valley. But who wants to wait that long?
Who does?
So, yeah, obviously I will enjoy them then. But in the meantime, I figured let's go on a crazy road trip adventure and drive out to central Illinois. Now, the periodical cicadas, this is one of the widest geographical distribution broods. And as you can see from my shirt, there are actually two broods that are out this year. The reporting on this has been, I have to give my math hat on here, but the reporting, like articles I see get a little overblown about this whole thing. But you have different populations of 17-year cicadas that have a 17-year cycle, and in different areas those broods come out in different years. And so actually 3 years ago I went to Baltimore to see brood 10 when they came out. And in northern Illinois and sort of bits of Indiana and a few other areas, we have brood 13 this year, which is a 17-year cicada brood, which came out this year. It will come out again in another 17 years and so on. Mm-hmm. But also in a good chunk of area, like I think like Tennessee, Kentucky, bits of the South, a whole big wide area of the South, there's also a brood of the 13-year cicadas. And in fact, this is brood 19 in particular. That also they're on a 13-year cycle, and they actually also are in southern Illinois, and there's a portion of central Illinois where the two populations overlap. And so that's where I went. What I didn't realize, or I didn't think about until then, is that being in that area means that any cicada that I see, I have no idea whether it's a 13-year or a 17-year cicada.
Ah, yes.
So, but here's the other thing. Okay, so I've been reading up on this. So there are 3 different species of cicadas that are in the 17-year cicada group. And yeah, so there's first of all, the genus is Magicicada because they are obviously magical, of course.
Magicicada. I love it.
But so there's septendecim, 17, seven,
Okay.
so there you go. All right. There's septendecula, which is the one species I have not actually spotted in either of my 2 adventures so far. I don't know if it's more rare or I was in the right place or what. And then there's Cassini, which is named for someone who likes cicadas apparently. But in the 13-year groups, there are also there were thought to be 3 species of 13-year cicadas, each of which was closely related to one of the 17-year species. And so there's tridecim, which is 13, but it's like septendecim, and they call those groups the decim cicadas. And there's Cassini, Cassini, because it's 13 Cassini, and then there's Tridecula, which is like so. Okay, so sorry if this is like super complicated.
No, this is really cool.
But it's really cool. So the thing is like I've been reading this because I was realizing like I was trying to look up and research in advance like how to tell them apart because I could get information for how to tell apart those 3 groups within the brood, those 3 species. But there's basically nobody seems to have any consistent information. Nobody seems to know. In fact, it was stated that it's practically impossible to tell apart. Have you got septendecim or have you got tridecim? So those 2 that are closely related, but one's 13 or one's 17 year. And apparently it is thought, and I'm starting to agree with this, that they might not really be separate species. And it's also known that some of all of these species, sometimes you get like even some small numbers or even large numbers of them coming out 4 years early or 4 years late. So actually 4 years ago in the area of Chicago, there was a huge emergence of cicadas that were 4 years early for the brood 13, the ones that the rest of them have emerged now, basically. And
interesting,
I don't know,
isolating.
it might be a temperature thing, it might be a climate change thing. So I don't even know. It could be that because the ones that are further south come out every 13 years, the ones that are further north come out every 17 years. Maybe it's just a climate thing. I don't know. Wow. So anyway, but then this is the really fascinating part. Okay. So I said that there's 3 species of 13-year cicadas. Actually, there's not. So of the decim cicadas, there's the septendecim 17-year ones. There's the tridecim 13-year ones, right? And they all make different buzzing noises, right? All the different cicadas make different kinds of like loud screaming noises. And the decim ones are the ones that go wee, wee. And it's pretty cool because when you're in an area where there's all different species calling, you can actually distinguish, you can hear all the different ones. And so it was kind of maddening for a while because when we were out there, we could only find one species, but we could hear the other species. But so, of those decim cicadas, it was discovered with this brood 19, which is one of the 13-year broods, the brood that was out this year. I believe 26 years ago in 1998, this was discovered with this brood. That actually there are 2 species of the 13-year decim cicadas, and they're now known as tridecim and neotridecim because they make different pitches of calls, and or rather they mostly they're in geographically different areas. This is most, I think, neotridecim is slightly more northerly and tridecim is a little more southerly. And so in most areas, you can identify them by some very fine details of examining them. I don't know how to do it, but they look the same and they make the same pitch of call. But when those 2 species are in the same location and they're both calling, neotridecim changes the pitch of its call.
But doesn't when they don't overlap.
But doesn't when they don't overlap. Yeah, and I'm not. I need to go find this paper that described this. I don't know, but they did the research and they were able to work out that no, it's not just like a third species or something. It's it's the same species that when it's not in proximity to the other species, it makes a call the same pitch as the other species. But when they're both in proximity together, they change the pitch. And theoretically, if you're in an area where there's a chorus where they're both present, you should be able to hear it because you'll hear like the two pitches interacting. I could not hear that myself. I don't know if I was
to do a little sonogram to see if we could.
Yeah. So, and I've seen pictures of this. I didn't have any recording equipment, so, but maybe next year. But yeah, so it was very cool. I got to see them. I was too late to see them emerging from their as nymphs.
Yeah.
Because that would have had to go a few weeks earlier for that. But I did get to see them laying eggs, and they were laying eggs like because the thing is usually annual cicadas that we hear every year, they're usually high up in the trees. I mean, I very rarely have ever seen one because they're usually pretty high up. And I think the reason we see the periodical cicadas is because there's just so many of them that they can't all fit high up in the trees, and so they end up down low because there's just no room for them anywhere else. But yeah, so they're laying eggs everywhere, and I was able to actually watch them laying eggs. And let me get my phone.
This is really cool, folks. Hey, Susan.
Bugs are awesome. I mean, just there.
Bugs are awesome.
I could go on forever, but I won't. But let me just show you because now
I do want to see this. So, and also what this makes me think is what I would like to do is if you would figure out when it's going to be another sort of super emergence, what would be a year and a place to go? Let's go make a nature journal sort of mini conference, mini event, go cicada-ing in sort of a deep cicada zone at some place where there's kind of like interesting convergences of things. Would you be able to kind of do some research and figure out like this is the year?
Yeah. So when you say super emerge, do you mean having two broods emerging the same year in the same place?
Like so, something like that, where there's going to be a cool emergence, but if we can also get that to be where there's like a whole other layer of stuff going on, wouldn't that be?
I will look into it. That was one of the reasons why I specifically decided to go out, because I could have gone a shorter distance probably just to see the cicadas, but one of the reasons I'm here is because I worked out that this is the thing that kind of drives me crazy, because I've been seeing articles about this, and they're like, this year, for the first time in 221 years, that's 13 times 17, we'll have two broods of cicadas, and they'll be double the cicadas ever. And the fact is that first of all, the two broods only overlap in a certain area. And to be honest with you, I wouldn't say that I saw double the number of cicadas that I saw in previous years. I think we're at the edges of the ranges of both broods.
That makes sense.
So yeah, I can't. It's very cool, but I can't say there's more cicadas than usual. But yeah, and so the broods are all in geographically different locations. So yeah, I definitely can look up and see if I can figure out when there'll be ones that actually do overlap. But the other thing is that this particular pair of broods only overlap every 221 years. And any particular, if you pick any 17-year brood and any 13-year brood, they will have an overlap every 221 years. But there are 13 different broods of 17-year cicadas, and there are 3 different broods of 13-year cicadas. And by a mathematical theorem called the Chinese remainder theorem, we can prove that therefore 39 out of every 221 years, there will be 2 broods emerging in the same year. And that works out to about every 5 or 6 years.
Okay. So, here's
it's very cool.
Let's find a cool emergence in a cool place. If you can find that time and place, then organize a Wild Wonder event in that place at that time and go cicada peeping.
Absolutely. Here is happy little mama laying an egg in a.
Oh, look at you! So those little bumps are the eggs, and is she putting them on the surface, or is she putting an ovipositor into the surface?
Yeah. So her ovipositor, it must have a very sharp end here. this is obviously without the legs and without the wings and without all the other stuff, because
Yeah.
but she sort of sticks it and she sort of works it in. She just slowly kind of like pushes it in, and those bumps are actually little wounds in the stem.
Got it.
And by the time she's got it in, she's actually her abdomen is like almost flush with the stem, and she's laying eggs in there. I don't know how many eggs get laid in each one, but what would happen is she'd do that. It'd take her, probably 5-10 minutes, and then she'd slowly pull it out, and then she'd walk forward a centimeter or so, and then do it again. So the whole line of bumps is actually, I believe, the same cicada had done each of these, and she's just going to keep going until she's in the stem. By the end of that time, the place was so full up that there were cicadas that were laying eggs in between the bumps of existing from previous egg laying processes. Yeah, so the bumps aren't the eggs; they're actually the little wounds and little cuts in the stem. And so apparently, what you do see, which I wasn't seeing evidence of yet, but if I'd been there, probably by now probably you'd start to see some stems actually like starting to kind of wilt and look like they're dying, because they're making so many cuts in these stems that the pathogens can get in and stuff. So this is why people freak out about cicadas attacking their fruit trees and things like that, which is like temporarily it's going to cause some wilting of the tree, but it'll be fine. And then as I understand it, the larva when they hatch, they come out and they just drop to the ground.
Mm-hmm.
And so they don't actually spend any time up in the tree, but the eggs get laid on the tree because the larvae need to be near a tree, because when they burrow underground, they then basically suck juices from the roots of the trees. And they need to be near hardwoods. And so I guess the whole business of laying eggs in the tree is just a strategy to ensure that the larvae end up in the right place.
That is really fun.
Yeah.
I would love
what sorts of plants, because I was wondering, because that was actually the leaf stem of a compound leaf, and I was thinking, did they lay it in like branches as well? Is there a difference? I don't know. And eventually I saw, they're actually they weren't laying eggs in the stems of the honey locust because it's too thin, I think. But they were laying eggs in the branches and the thorns of the honey locust, which was pretty cool.
Oh.
So it seems like, and they were laying eggs in like nice fresh green stems and like slightly older brown stems. I don't seem to mind. So
that is really fun. That was fun.
Yeah.
So I'm going to go just bounce over to my gallery view for a second, and raise your hand if you would like to. Would be interested if we set up a cicada peeping nature journaling adventure. How many people would be interested in going out for that? Looks like a bunch of us. Okay. Ha! All right.
They're super fun bugs because like even people who don't like bugs, like they're really placid. They don't do anything unpredictable. They they're sitting there on the leaves just hanging out, and you can just like pick them up and put them on you. And occasionally they'll crawl around and they tickle, and if you stand like right next to a tree where there's a lot of them, they might start climbing up your legs and tickling, and that could be a little unnerving.
That's cool.
They're big bugs, but they just sit on you, and they're super cute, and they don't do anything, and they don't bite. So like they're, for people who aren't necessarily bug fans, they're a great introductory bug, I think. So yeah.
And so snuggleable.
Mm-hmm. Oh, very much so. Yes. So anyway, if we set this kind of thing up, we'll have to get Trisha involved, because I think she'll
I mean, we could. I bet we could get a critical mass of the nerds all in one place.
Yeah.
And just geek out hard for a spell.
Exactly. Yes. So they had mentioned Trisha Nichols, who does Insectopia, who does the bug drawings on Thursday nights. I actually met up with her out in Illinois, and we were meeting up and looking at cicadas, and she was collecting them for her collections. So anyway, we'll have to get her, because anyway, I could talk for hours, but I won't monopolize.
Let's go get beat in the same place at the same time with cicadas, and we will talk for hours. It will be sleepless nights because we're all. Thank you so much. That was wonderful to learn about that adventure. Mm-hmm. Let's hop across the pond and join our friend Ray Bonto. It is good to see you.
Good to see you too, Jeff.
Hi there.
Hi. Um,
Oh,
Only probably what I was doing with pen, and so the eyelid got blotted out, and it looks as if it has got a giant eye.
that's okay. Yeah, but these just have really nice structure going on in them. And with your pen, you're still getting your line variation too. On that zebra head, I love the angle on that forehead where the we see the protrusion made by the far side eye. That's really cool to see.
Thank you. Um, This
See here.
one, you know, some reason this bit got a little long.
Yeah, I think mine did too. Yeah,
Oh.
the proportions of the snout of my lion, I look at like take just to make you feel better on that. Um, this guy's out like, you know, oh lion, why the long face?
Yeah, that's it.
Right? So it can happen, but then we just do the next drawing and we do the next drawing. And so when we do it, if we don't do that drawing, right, then we're thinking to ourselves, like, oh yeah, I would totally get that. But then when we do the drawing and we go like, wow, I drew a drawing of a lion with a really, really long face, then the
Yeah,
next time it just makes our brain a little bit more attentive to the general proportions of the lengths of that snout, and that's how we get better. But if we just sort of thought about it in our heads, we wouldn't get better with that. That's cool.
yeah,
Nice. Oh, that's strong work. And that's all. And so you're working now, just kind of diving in with a pen.
yeah.
Great. I like the way you sort of challenge yourself with different media. You know, it'll be neat to see where this goes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good to see you.
Good to see
Um, and let's see, there we go. Let's join Lisa. Lisa, if you turn on your camera, we can add you into the video here. Otherwise, you can now unmute and you can ask your question. Hi there, I'll bring you in, add you to the spotlight right there.
Hello.
Hello there.
So I kind of joined a little late, so I only got to draw two. And I wrote it on just a random page. Um,
Oh, good. With whatever is on hand. I,
yes,
I like the way that the cheetah's far side eye is tucking in behind that nose. That really sets it in place there.
yes.
That's cool.
It
That's really cool.
was a lot of fun. And then this guy, I only got a little bit of him drawn.
Yep. Oh, that's really fun.
Yeah.
That's really fun. The
Now,
the this
uh,
the combination of our sort of our smooth lines and then these sort of boxes and spheres
yes.
really does help. That's I'm really getting a sense of dimensions on these.
Yeah, and I haven't drawn animals. I actually went up to Big Sur and I did this little number up at Big Sur, the
Oh,
lighthouse. So we had
oh, that's cool.
a lot of fun with that.
And I also love all the notes written. All of this is a great integration
Oh yeah.
of using written notes and our um, written notes and our sketches and drawings.
Yes. And then we saw on the path, we saw this little critter, this little guy. And I
Oh,
figured out it was like a fuzzy moth. I had to look that up later. So
did you look?
that
Oh,
was
that's so cool.
that was a lot of fun.
You just made Susan really happy.
Yeah.
Drawing caterpillars. Hmm.
I love it. He was so fluffy and fun. It's really cool.
That's really fun. That's really
Yeah.
fun. So, and did you? I see that there is a drawing of a pupa there. Did you hatch it out?
No, I actually had to look it up because I was very
Got it.
curious. I just had drawn him
Yeah.
and we had saw him climb up and I had seen some egg clusters. And
Yeah.
so I looked up to see what he was because we found some. So this pupa was the one when I looked it up, it would have turned into this. And
Got
then
it.
like a spiny, weird kind of moth, like he has fuzz on his butt.
Uh,
So when I looked it up, that's like what his life cycle would have been. But we only had seen him and then some clustered, but no moths. We
that's
didn't see any
neat.
of the
That's
moths.
neat. Little fuzzbutt moth.
Yeah, so I had to like fill it in because I had to look it up. And
Yeah.
I didn't write down the genus or species of it. I don't know why, because I looked it up, but I never wrote it on my page. So
Oh, you still
I
can.
had to go back and do that. Oh, sure. And then the only other one we did some flowers at the old Monterey jail.
Ooh, I love how you're also zooming in on that to give us the details
Yes.
of what we're seeing.
So that was a lot of fun.
It looks like you're having fun with this. Like,
Yes.
taking the colors of the flower and bringing them into the temperature and all this other good stuff.
Yes, definitely. This is my mini me.
Hi there. Nice to meet you. Do you like drawing?
Do you like drawing? Yes. Yes.
What do you like drawing pictures of?
Normally, just me and mommy. She said just me and mommy.
Ah, no,
So,
that's a good thing to do together.
yes. We made some fresh orange juice. She was coming
Oh,
in to
great.
open it. So, and then this one was in our backyard. This is my last one I've done. So,
Ooh,
it was a cactus that we have.
yeah.
And then this is it open and it closes at night.
Oh, that's really interesting.
That's
I like having those two stages. And then is that a little kind of detail of part of the inside of it on the by your pinky?
by my pinky. Oh, down here?
No, no, up in other page. Yeah, well, I'm seeing this.
Oh, that's the
Oh, that's
sun.
the sun. The sun.
Yeah,
Got
because it was a
it.
very sunny day.
My camera wasn't really focusing.
Yes. Who are you talking to?
Oh, that's fun. I really liked sort of the open and closed version of it too.
Yeah, it's really fun.
That's really cool.
So thank
Thank
you
you so
for
much for
letting me
sharing that.
share.
Oh, that's really cool to see. Yeah, I like how you also take how you take elements from the the colors from what you're seeing, and then you're putting those into the temperature and other parts of the title. That's
Yeah, that's really
really
fun.
kind of pulls that page together.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
The um, oh, really fun to see those. So, Avea, as we're kind of wrapping up for the day here, do you have any thoughts or ideas that you'd like to share with the group, or journal pages that you've been up to that you would like to share?
Okay. I've been doing it's sort of journal pages, but it's more like, how do we put this? Consolidating data from about 3 years worth of collections. So right now I'm in data land and it's been like really fun. I'm doing something nuts and I'm really proud of it.
Okay. I'm gonna turn my screen off so that we make yours bigger. Tell us how you've been geeking out. I'm very interested.
Okay, so as folks know, I'm obsessed with doing habitat restoration work and nature journaling about it. I just recently, as in maybe about an hour or two ago, finished getting all of my pictures from Monoceros 1 into one document. So I'm extremely excited about this. And this is one of 3 journals that I've been working on. And so I've figured I want to go and expand so that I'm doing profiles of the plants, of the bugs, and of the birds. But first, I thought it'd be fun to collect some data. So what I've done is that because I use Merlin Bird, yeah, okay, those are the right years. I use Merlin Bird ID to hear the bird songs initially, so that then that way I can go and do this whole complicated thing where then I double check to see if I really heard that bird or not. What I'm doing is going back through my Merlin data, and first I circle the dates that I went to my site because Merlin doesn't always know the location and I don't want to get my data mixed up. So then what I do is that once I've got that, then I go through each month, I note down how many visits I've made, and I mark down how many times that bird, or sorry, how many visits has that bird been recorded at my site.
Ah,
Um, and there's a big list, as you can see. And so then I'm noticing,
yeah.
who did I leave off my list? I'm noticing where my data was flimsy because I didn't hear the bird make a call, so I wasn't noticing, and that's the turkey vulture. So I need to pay more attention to turkey vultures because they
Yep.
don't they
Yep.
don't some of the birds I see, and so I need to get better at writing those down. But right now I'm just going through my Merlin. I'm tallying them up. I did that. I'm doing that for 2024 right now, but I also have to go back through and do it for 2023 and 2022. I'm also noticing that my site's numbers differed. Like in 2022, I went 45 times. In 2023, I went 29. I know the reason for why I went less in 2023. Rough year emotionally, but it still gives me more data to look at. And so, like with 2022, I'm going through, I'm saying, oh, there was nothing in January. February looked like this. And the reason why I'm looking at this through the months is for a few things. For one, if I look at all my data together and I see that there's a particular bird that maybe only has one instance, then I can question, is this really a case that this bird was here, or is it possible that Merlin ID made a mistake? And
Mm-hmm.
to question that, what I've decided to do is that I go on to iNaturalist where people are constantly putting in their pictures. And instead of looking only in the Presidio, I widen my search to maybe all of San Francisco or the Bay Area. And I enter in that bird that I'm not certain about. And if it's shown up in other areas that are nearby, then it's more likely that Merlin knows what it's talking about. And if it hasn't, like, you may not be knowing what you're talking about. And so that's one thing, is to check on Merlin and see, are we doing this? And then the other thing is that, for example, if I get a bird like maybe my white-crowned sparrow friend, and so far it's shown up in, you know, 3 of the months, or no, sorry,
Yeah.
2 of the months.
And April was a good month for it.
Yep. Although part of that's because I visited more in April. April, for
Mhm.
some reason, that month makes me happy on many levels. So it's like, okay, April. And so I have to go through the rest of these. But the thing is that, for example, if I find out that song sparrows and white-crowned sparrows are there year round, then that's going to impact what restoration work I do when, because we are told that from March to August, or rather the end of July, that in this period is bird nesting season, and we're not permitted to do canopy work. But a question that I had earlier is that is this an assumption we're making that all birds nest in the canopy? And so when I did my initial bird profiles in Papyrus right here, then I then I'm, oh yeah, perfect. I got right on the right page, just as I wanted to. So for example, my little friend here, the Stannion Street Nightingale, also known as the white-crowned sparrow, it says here a little friend is a ground nester. So
Yes.
if bird nesting season says don't mess with the canopy, but our bird's a ground nester, then that does no good. Our bird's not a canopy nester, it's a ground nester. Same with a
Yes.
few of the other sparrows. And so if my data sheet is making sense and it's like, oh, but these sparrows are around all the time, then what's going to make the most sense for me to do? I've got to think about that. I've got to problem solve. How am I going to do this and not mess with the sparrows until I learn what alarm calls sound like, and until I learn better how to be a better birder? Because I got a lot of places to go with this. And so that's part of it too. And then also I want to see if the numbers increase or decrease, because there are some species that are known to be decreasing, like our chestnut-backed chickadee friend, our there's one of the warblers that is decreasing too. It's those butterbutts, but I can't remember.
Oh, the yellow rumped?
Yeah, I've heard that they are. Am I remembering this right? Now I've got to look at my notes again. But I wrote down notes that I took from All About Birds, and so trying to look at all of the different data and verify, is this what I'm really seeing here? I'm hoping that that will help. And then I've got to go and like draw little birds eventually on each of the months, so that way I'll have a visual to go along with it in Monoceros too. So there's that. And then the other things that I'm doing are that because I can't do line point transect monitoring or quadrat monitoring because I don't have the resources in terms of time and people, then I'm instead just doing an absent present thing for now about my different plant species. So I've got my native species, the ones that we're trying to protect and increase the diversity of. And then we've got our introduced species. And I've already got lots of questions about what are the effects if I remove all of these? You know, is it all going to be good, or are there going to be actual drawbacks? And so right now what I'm doing is that I've listed out each of my 14 mini sites. And each time I go and work in them, I count, or rather I check off who's there and who's not. And I go through the entire thing like a checklist because there's a lot of each of them. Um, and so what I'll eventually do with this is I'll tally up the number of native species and then the number of introduced species. And for each of them, I'll make bar chart, except that I'll have the native species in one color and the introduced stacked on top so that I can see the relative biodiversity of each of the sites and know where I need to prioritize. And if I just said a bunch of things that make no sense, that's fine. I've got squirrel brain right now because I'm so excited about this.
Oh, girl brain. Uh, this is so cool. And I love how um you're thinking about your thinking and taking all of this to a deeper level. Looking at this altitude, you may be able to see patterns that you can't see when you're just, say, flipping through a journal. And I'm so curious to see um, how does it change your thinking when you look at patterns from, say, a different elevation like this?
I agree.
But yeah, that's cool. And I see Susan is also just geeking out on this hard.
And then I've been drawing things. That's from
Ah, hello, critters.
lovely little ungulate
Yep,
things.
and I love the combination of sort of nice these sort of organic lines of the side of the head of an animal with the geometry and sort of support blocks inside. Just aesthetically, it makes me happy.
There's
Oh, look at hyena face.
my favorite, my favorite ugly cute ever. I personally
Yes.
think they're wonderful. I adore hyenas ever since you taught us more about them. And then let's see here. As we already saw, I got hummingbirds because I'm gonna be redrawing the pied birds. I'm very excited. And um bug night. I've got to go back and make more of this.
Fine.
I've decided that I need to go and come up with some icons for some bug vocabulary. So yeah, I've got squirrel brain right now and it's making me very happy.
Ah, that's good. Well, I wish that may your squirrels be fruitful and multiply. And um, I can't wait to see what is the collective term for squirrels?
I do not know that. I need to find out. I need to write that down.
Oh. Because that would be, let's see if somebody does find.
I
Did I
like your,
just see a nut house?
yeah,
Squirrel.
of squirrels. That's fun.
That's
Oh,
really great.
I just see Susan's question about the mustache snowdrop bird. Yes, yes, I did. I figured out that this is a fox sparrow. The way I did that was that I drew both of them side by side. I noted the differences among them. I tried to memorize some of the key differences, and the next time I saw them through binoculars, I noted the small nutcracker beak that the hermit thrush does not have, and figured that it was a fox sparrow. But I
That's
still call them the mustache snowdrop bird because they're cute.
that's fantastic. Well, I can't wait to see what you business you get into when you when I next see you. Have a wonderful summer to both to you and to all of our friends. And
folks, let's stay curious. Let's, keep asking these questions and playing together. Um, the this will be. I want to encourage you to sort of to realize that there are mysteries and things happening right where you are, and all we need to do is learn how to see them, how to look around so that the mysteries around us kind of come out and play with us. And the key is just to slow down and to start to pay attention. And this world is such a beautiful place, and so are you. Thank you, my friends. I will see you in a few months, and really look forward to playing with you again. We'll be back.
Thank you, Jack.
Thank you.
Miss you, but we'll be cheering you on.
I'll try to report in if the systems allow me to do it. Take care, everyone. Be well.